everyone, to another awesome day of FileMaker training. I'm Richard Carlton, creator of fmtraining.tv, where we create awesome FileMaker stuff at all times. Well, not at all times, but most of the time, I would say about 20 hours a day, we create awesome FileMaker stuff. This is Jonathan Ray, the guy in blue. Hello, Jonathan Ray.
Hey, how we doing?
Jonathan is awesome. Now, before we jump on to Jonathan's bandwagon and have a moment, I want to talk about what we're doing here. So first off, welcome to fmtraining.tv, where we broadcast in high definition every day, Monday through Friday, California time. Yeah, California. We have our own time zone, right? Pacific time, 1 o'clock p.m. to 2 o'clock. It's like midnight. Christian Schmidt is in the UK. Not in the UK, he's in the EU. Are you German? Where are you at, Christian Schmidt? Germany? So you're somewhere over there. I lose track of where you're at. I think he's Germany. He is Germany. He's Germany. Well, he's there with TK55678, our moderator who was retiring, but our new hot air balloon moderator is coming on board, so we're very excited to have that. So today is an awesome day. So once again, if you go to fmtrain.tv, you can check it out right here. And there's all these little buttons across here. There's like too many buttons across here, but we actually create a lot of products. That's kind of a problem. So if you want to know the upcoming broadcast schedule, you go to fmtrain.tv. You press the live button over here, and you scroll down, and we have Speeding Your Loops today with Jonathan Ray. It's kind of a lean design kind of conversation. Jay doesn't really call it lean design, but really I think at the end of the day, it's if you consult your FileMaker Bible, chapter first Jonathan chapter 2 verses 3, and we talk about in here in chapter 2 is a progression of learning. As you become an advanced FileMaker developer, it's on the top of page 25. Right, there we go. And you have this little picture of yourself in here, and you're an advanced developer, right? Actually, I'm backwards. Let me fix my artwork here. There we go. Now you can actually read it, right? Right, advanced developers, the progression of learning as you learn your things, lean design, right? So that's the idea, is that you start to learn the idiosyncrasies of the FileMaker platform, the little subtleties that make it go really fast. Why do they go in certain areas really fast? It's because of the way it was engineered and built. And so we learn that as senior developers. We share that with you. A lot of times it's Nick, but sometimes other senior developers at RCC who are quite talented get to come here and do that. And so they say, hey, I've got this demo. It's really amazing. And it goes so much faster one way as opposed to another way. So that's really kind of the conversation today. So there's Jonathan full screen. So tell us, Jonathan, what are you doing today? What are you doing?
Yeah, so even for developers starting out, you're going to run into situations where you want to use a loop. Usually that's encountered in a script where you go through, say, a list of records or a list of something, and you are processing a list. And so you do a loop, and hopefully you don't get stuck in an infinite loop. But a loop is a pretty common thing in any programming language. And even for new developers coming into the FileMaker platform, you're going to run into this where you're going to use a loop. Okay, and so this is a way of speeding up a loop when you're processing a list of text, a list of records, whatever, and it'll be helpful to you. And then moving on from there, it also helps you loop through a list in a calculation. So with the while function that was introduced, I believe in FileMaker 18, you can do almost like a script loop inside a calculation, whereas before you could only do that in a custom function with a recursive function, with a recursive setup. So the technique I'm going to show today shows you how to speed up a loop either in a script or in the calculation engine itself. I have a couple examples prepared. Okay, so I'm going to switch to the desktop view here and start sharing my screen. Let me know if that's coming through okay.
Yeah, it looks 5x5. Looks really great. In fact, I'm going to move my little box out of the way down there. So yeah, you're good, Jay.
Okay, great. So want to give credit where credit's due here. This is this came from a JSON parsing example that loops through a list of JSON, and we'll get to this at the very end for people that kind of freak out when they see JSON. So this is the most complex example, but I have in the little info here, this is where it came from on the community forum. A person posted a little sample file. Okay, so I'm going to go to my first example. I have a couple of records queued up here, and this is just text from a common domain book, A Tale of Two Cities. You can find it on the Gutenberg project website. Okay, so it's just raw text. If you scroll down, it's the text here. And for our example, what I'm going to do is take every single word in this text and then create records for every single word, and to see how fast we can do that. So it's a easy example. And you can see that the two methods, one is this fast method that I'm going to demo, and the other one is the common method that you'll see, say, in the FileMaker help section. They'll show you how to do a loop, and it's usually with this method here. Okay, so with something like 3,600 words, it's going to create 3,600 records. The comparison is not that drastic. Okay, so if I do the first method, it takes 1 second to
That's
create.
really fast. That's really fast. I would assume it would take 5 to 10 seconds at least to do that.
Yep. And so this one here, when we're processing just 3,000, the comparison is almost identical. So it's
Really?
not too much of a difference. So it takes 1 second. 1 second. But if we up the count, and let's do 48,000, okay, you can see that the test I just ran before the recording here, this one took 14 seconds. Now this one takes 1:25, and it gets
So is there? So this is like
more.
like an exponential slowdown. It's not like
It's
even a
big time. Yeah. So this one here, I'm not even going to run it on live because it takes too long. Where is it? This one. This is the entire book. So 137,000 records. For the first one, it takes a minute and 45 seconds or something like that. And then this one, I just stopped it midway through after 10 minutes or so of it running. But I'm sure it'll take 20, 25 minutes, something like that. And this is a local file. So the method I'm showing you here makes a world of difference to a big set of records that you're trying to process. So it's a very good technique to learn. Okay, good so far?
Yep. Good
Okay.
so far.
All right. And so we're going to look at parsing records. And this one, of course, is done through a script, right? The other one here, this is a test with the calculation engine. All right. So if I go to my, and you can see this is where I got the initial file from, the JSON file, and then
From
put a lot
Sky
of stuff to it. Yeah.
Mr.
Yeah.
Wilmot.
Okay. So if I come here to this book, all right, and I'm going to select, say, the 4 chapters, okay? Here's 4 chapters. 1 sec. Okay, all 4 chapters. And this calculation, what it's going to do is it's going to loop through every word and then just put a number. Well, you'll see. Okay? And I'm going to, when I commit, it's going to do its auto enter, right? So it's going to append every single word. And this is, 45,000 words, and that was pretty fast. I mean,
Okay, that's a text string on the left down there, or is those records? That's a text
this
string.
is just a text string.
Okay.
And so it's an auto enter calculation.
Got it.
So this is the regular method. If I paste and then commit, now it's starting to spin, right? So it probably took 5 times as long to do. And so again, you can see whether it's done through a script or whether this looping method is done in a field with an auto enter calculation. The speed difference is big, real big. Okay. And then this one here, the JSON example, came from the Claris community forum, and doing parse using GetValue. And then this one uses the new getJSON element. We'll dive into this and see how it works. but here's how long it takes to do the get value. 440 seconds to parse 1,000 records. See there, 1,000 records have been created.
Okay.
Okay. And then, so 440 milliseconds versus, and it's thinking. And so I don't know how I can't do the calculation in my head, but that's a significant difference. Yeah,
Yeah,
6 seconds versus 0.4, right?
Yeah, well, it's more than, 10 times, 11 times, 12, 15 times, I don't know, 1,500 times faster. So, yeah, so it's interesting. Interesting.
Yep. And so this
Questions?
one here,
Scott Kane, if you folks have
go ahead.
questions, make sure you have questions. Post questions. If you have questions, let us know. Because I think Jay's going to dive into this a little bit more. Yes, Jay?
Yep. Yeah, absolutely. And so this one right here, if you use the get JSON element, like the FileMaker help section demos to you, and it says, here's how you loop through and make records out of a JSON object. This is what they will show you, right? And so this is going against the default method and giving you a faster one, right? So we're going to go with this one first, this text parsing example. Once you learn the technique, then we can apply it to the other ones. So I'm going to pull up my script debugger and go to the normal one first. And these two here, the difference between simple and complex, these two buttons actually parse out the chapter title, chapter number, and chapter title, whereas these just give you a record for every word. So if you're really interested in knowing how to do some complex parsing, you can look at the two bottom buttons, but we're going to stick with the top two. Okay, so I'm going to pull up the actual script. Again, this is the slow version here, okay? And we're going to go through. Well, let me do it in the script debugger so you can see this happening live, okay? And I'm going to pull up also my data viewer and take all of these out, okay? Okay, so what it first does is it truncates the table of parsed words. So anything in our table, it's going to delete all of them just for this test. Okay, it's going to start out with a brand new table. Okay, it flushes the cache. So some of these are just like house cleaning stuff, right? This one here, this set variable, sets the name of our book. Okay, this one's the big one. This one's the raw text that we just set as a variable. And that would be the 48,000 words here, okay? So in my data viewer, I can see this live. I can see the raw text is this big honking thing here, okay? And it's spinning and spinning because it's so big. So this raw text variable, it takes the text and then it says, we want for every space in there, we're going to make it a paragraph return. Okay. And that's why you have a stacked list of text stacked on top of each other. And then what the FileMaker script is going to do is it's going to go through that list, which is now almost 50,000 values stacked on top of each other. And it's going to make a record for every one of those. That's the idea. Okay. Let me go here to watch instead so it doesn't go as slow. It goes to the parsed words layout, freezes the window. The little start thing, that starts a timer to allow us to know at the end of the script, here's end, and then it compares the two to show us the time, okay? And then where we're at. Okay, the value count shows us we have 48,058 values to loop through. And we're going to start this loop. So it's going to go through 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way until it gets to 48,058. And it's going to exit, okay, whenever this iteration variable reaches 48,058. In other words, every time we go through this loop, let's just go through it once to show you, okay? It sets the variable iteration. In this case, the iteration is 1. It's a count of how many times we've been through this loop, okay? And then it sets the current word, which is the first word in this big, long list of values, which is chapter. That's the first word. And you see how it got that word? It got it by saying get value from the raw text, okay? This 48,058 values here. It's saying get out of that 48,058 values, get X, which is 1. Get the first one, okay? And then if it's not empty, if there's something there, it creates the new record, sets the word, okay, sets the book name, and then because we're not at 48,058 yet, it goes through the loop again. All right, and then it sets the iteration to number 2, and then this variable is now getting the second word in this big long list. So the second one is going to be I dot. That's the value it's going to retrieve. All right, and so for most of you that have done loops, this is pretty boring right now, but I need to explain how it's getting there. Okay, so the current word is I dot, and it's new record, set the field, etc. Okay, so I'm not going to go through 48,058 times of this, but that's how it's working. And then when it's done, it commits, and then it goes back to the layout and shows you how long it took. But this is the key here. This is the big takeaway. When you use something like GetValue, and then you're saying, I want out of this big long list of values to get number X. All right, that's what slows it down. And here's why. If I open up my my variable, again, this is 48,058 values stacked on top of each other. And every time you go through the list, what FileMaker is doing is it goes through the first one and it says, okay, is the number 1 that we're looking for? If it's not, then it goes to the second one and it asks the question, is this the one? No. And it goes through 1, 2, 3, 4. And let's say that it's number 1,000 that we're processing. It has to go through each and every value and say, nope, it's not that one. Nope, it's not that one. Nope, it's not that one. And it keeps going until it finds the one we're looking for. And then it grabs that and creates a new record. And you can see, if we have 1 million of these, every single time it has to go through from the top and say, is it this one? No. Is it this one? No. Until it reaches the 1,000,000th record, and then it's like, we finally got it.
So we're saying that GetValue is fast unless you got a lot of values, and then it becomes slow, right?
Exactly. And that's what's happening here. So the more values you have, the slower it becomes. If you're only processing 10, you're not going to notice any difference at all. But you can see in the test that we just did that it becomes a major deal once you get more and more. Okay, so here's how we get around it, and this is really cool. So I'm going to stop that whole thing, go back to our parsing examples, okay, and I'm going to show you the new way. Okay, I'm going to loop through this. All of this stuff we just went through, everything here is identical to the first one. Okay, the iteration set is 1. Here is the big difference. I'm going to pull up my data viewer here. We still have a long list, 48,058 values. But what it's doing here is it's just getting the first one every single time. Okay, so it gets the first value, and then it creates a record for it. Okay, it exits if the iteration is equal or greater to the count. So once we're at 48,058, it'll stop. And then what it does here is it shaves off the first value. Okay, so watch this raw text variable here. It shaves it off, and now the first one will be I dot. Okay, and then it goes through again. And so the current word is going to be the first one every single time. Okay, so you see I dot, etc. Okay, and then the next one, again, it's going to shave that first one off, and then the next one is going to be the word the. Okay, and so what it's doing instead of, okay, let me pull this up. What it's doing instead of going through the list and saying, okay, is the number we're looking for this one? No. Well, is it the second one? No. Is it the third one? Etc. All it's doing is it's getting the first one every time. It doesn't have to ask the question more than once. So let's say we're trying to retrieve number 1,000. It doesn't have to go, okay, is this number 1,000? No. Is this one? No. And it goes through all the list until it finds it, and then goes ahead and makes the record. Every single time we're pulling the first one, and then shaving it off, and so the next one becomes the first one. And that's how it becomes blazing fast, because it doesn't have to go through the list every time and search for it. Does that make sense?
So Monkey Bread, Christian Schmidt, who is by far the smartest person in this broadcast, I'm pretty sure, at least that I know, you just blew his mind. I think he's having a hard time. Either he threw us a softball, and he knew about this, or he didn't know about it.
Yeah, this is a super cool technique. Once I found out, this is how I do loops all the time now. And you can see it working with a script, okay? But it works the same exact way in a calculation, okay? But before I do that, though, I'm going to go to this JSON example. Mm-hmm. The GetValue, you can see, was pretty slow using the default method, but the getJSON element is very slow using that method. Okay, so the method is, again, this is the same exact thing that we just looked at, same type of script, okay? And this is how FileMaker tells you to do it. It says, set the iteration, right, for 1, and then go ahead and get that, that number. Just like a list of, well, let's just go through it here. Okay, I'm going to pull up the data viewer, and you can see we're going through 1,000 pieces of JSON, if you will. Here's the block that we're going through. And FileMaker in their help section tells you, here's how you do it. You want to go through, and each loop, let's say the loop number is 133. So what FileMaker does is it says, all right, well, is it the first one? No. Okay. Is it the second one? No. And it keeps going until it finds 133 and then processes it. But in my estimation, this JSON get element is like 5 times slower than the GetValue one that we just looked at. The JSON functions are inherently slower. So as a test here, let's go back. I don't know if we did this yet. Oh yeah, so 440 milliseconds versus 6 seconds is just incredibly slower.
Um,
Um,
I,
yeah,
we do have a question. I mean, there's some questions here, so you want to take a breath and take a question. So, first off, Christian Schmidt says, so you're telling me it's quicker to copy large text thousands of times instead of using the get value question mark? Right,
can you say that one more time?
it's on the previous demo, the last demo when you were doing the not the this one,
This one here.
you're on this one, and he says, you basically you tell me it's quicker. You're telling me it's quicker to copy large blocks of text thousands of times instead of using the get value, right? Question mark.
Okay, that's a great question here. And so here's why this is faster. Okay. Um, when I come here and set it once,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I don't have to. Where is it? Oh, here. When I set it once, down here, I'm not copying it again. It's stored now in memory.
Right.
It
Yeah.
cached it. And so
Yeah.
using this position function, I'm not actually copying it again. I'm just shaving it off the top using the replace function.
Yeah.
If I had to copy it again, it would be much, much slower. But using this method, we're only saving it once to memory and then shaving the first one off for each loop.
Monkey Bread, that's Christian Schmidt, goes, yeah, he knows that the get value is slow. That's why he created a list of, for those of you who have the Monkey Bread product, you can use the get list a quick list functions he has in Monkey Bread. Mm-hmm. So some of us have Monkey Bread. It depends on your customer's needs and whether they have it or not, whether it makes sense to do that. It's one of those plugins that I really like, but not everyone has it. So, so that was the one question. And then Christian wanted to know, I don't know if he's throwing you a softball. How did you figure this out? What made you figure this out? Why did you figure it out? And if this has anything to do with your PhD work, you might want to just like give people the 5-second scoop on that or what you're doing.
Yeah. So where I first found this was from the JSON example. Okay. From the guy on the Claris community, and then it got my brain in gear wondering, okay, well, if this makes the get JSON element much faster using get value here, then why can't I just use get value with non JSON functions? Would it be faster? And yes, it was. So this isn't using JSON at all. It's just plain text. But I applied the same type of method. And as you can see, I mean, it's a lot faster with the results there.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
And are you using this with any of your linguistic stuff at all that you're working
Oh, yeah.
on?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
So for those of you, I'm just going to give you it doesn't really matter the technical stuff that what he's diving into, but you are digging through historic texts, like millennial old text, right? Like thousands of years old text, and running them through some FileMaker software. It's part of his PhD candidacy that Jonathan's working on. So we have a PhD candidate here. It'll be Dr. Ray, not Joe J. Holmes. What's up? You know, it'll be Doctor and Doctor only J. And so the question is you're applying this to linguistics to derive updated meanings. That's what you're saying, that some of the interpretations are inaccurate, that kind of thing. You want to give us the thumbnail sketch of that?
What FileMaker allows us to do is dive into what's called computational linguistics, where you can have a computer program analyze large blocks of text. It doesn't have to be modern English text. It can be Latin text from 2,000 years ago. It can be Greek. It can be whatever. And then have FileMaker look for certain patterns that couldn't be seen easily before, other than just manually reading through. And so that's been incredibly helpful. And this looping method allows FileMaker to create records for each word very, very fast. And so that's been helpful just with the parsing of raw text, big blocks of text.
For those of you who remember, Jonathan was working on that latex demos that we had done, and it's still available on our websites, where we're interacting with the latex. And so that's all part of his PhD candidacy work, I guess, per se. I guess, a little bit with your master's, but pretty impressive stuff. The stuff I saw, he's looking at texts that are Greek and Latin, and the translations from those. That the modern accepted translations by current scholars would appear to be inaccurate. Whoops. And so it looks like if you go back and you look at it, taking into account proper linguistics and corrections for that time period, you suddenly get different meanings from these texts, and it's potentially very earth-shattering kind of stuff. Pretty interesting. So anyway, cool stuff on that. Do we have other questions? I mean, Jay's going here, but there were some questions. A couple people, Drizzle was talking to Ben on... Drizzle was talking. Drizzle had a question. I've never used a replace function before. Is it different? What's the difference between that and the substitute function?
Okay. Yeah. Good question. So let me do a quick little demo here. For replace, you can see here are the parameters you need to put in. Okay. So let's say the dog jumped over the fence, okay? And the start, if I want to say I want to extract this word dog, okay, I'm just going to put, it's with the position, okay, that we're talking
Whoops. Hey, Jay, your audio just cut out. Hello?
about. So let me do... Can you hear me now? No?
Yeah, you're back now.
Okay.
I think your internet dropped for a second there. So.
Oh, okay.
You were talking about the position, then you dropped off. So what about the position?
So for the replace, we're talking about a position. Okay, so we're saying start with number 5 here.
Character 5, okay.
And then number of characters, let's say 3. And then I want to replace it with the word cat. So with replace, you're saying I want... to start at a certain position, go to a certain extent, and replace it with a certain string.
Okay.
Okay. With substitute, we're just looking for a pattern. So if I say I want to replace anything here that looks like this, dog, and then replace it with cat, then we get the same result there.
Right. Okay. Makes sense. So so that's a position. It's a precision. I would consider a precision bombing feature. Right, I'm a military guy, but that's what replaces. But substitute is like mostly for most humans because you're looking for a word to swap it out. That's why most time people don't use it. Michael Gravel, pretty good, eh? You like that? That's good. People are saying thank you. Simon Day is liking that. That's good. Christian has another David. Well, David Angel says so. The replace is replacing its first value with So people are starting to get what you're talking about, what you're doing here. Christian does have a question here. So if you're using a virtual list, oh, nice, Christian. It's a very long thing here. So if you're using a virtual list and you use GetValue or GetJSON element, even though the data is local, it could slow down as the list gets extremely large for the reason Jay is showing.
That's correct. That's correct. But I don't know if my solution, actually, I don't think my solution would help the virtual list thing either. So if you have a virtual list that's 1 million records, you just have to rethink why you need that in the first place. Virtual lists are good for small sets of records as well.
Yeah, exactly. So, of course, Christian's thinking about large listings like that. Listen, the important thing to understand here is that Jay sets a variable here, and we set a variable, and then we don't go back and we don't keep setting the variable, right? So we do the raw text initially right there. And what you don't want to do is get into a situation where you're looping through, because every time you have to run a function, a substitute, any kind of function at all, you're causing the processing of the computer to have to go and to do something. And if you can preserve it in a variable, a local variable, global variable, right? Then if you can preserve the data and recycle it as opposed to recreating it, you're in a much better position. It's a very important concept. This is very much a lean design thing, although I think this would apply to other languages as well. Other languages, or it doesn't matter what you're doing, Swift or anything else, you're going to be able to call a function of some type and load it into a variable. And if you can preserve the variable because it's already calculated, it's already quick, it's easy, it can be accessed very rapidly, right? As opposed to, would you please go reload it for me, right? And you come over here and it has to do this big looping process of loading, right? And we know from Nick Hunter's conversation about the engines within the FileMaker platform, the scripting engine is the slowest part of the entire platform, right? And so there's a video on 3 engines. We talk about this very specifically. There's areas where it's like doing if you have the exact calculation over here that runs in a script, you have the exact calculation that runs in a custom function. The custom function will run it much faster. The problem is custom function doesn't execute really blocks of code sequentially, right? It does a calculation sequentially, but at the end of the day, it's not like a replacement for a script. But if you had a very complicated calculation over here in a script, if you could abstract that out, put it into a custom function, you're going to get a big performance boost from that. This is the essence of lean design. It's beyond an intermediate developer. This is that area between intermediates and advanced developers where we learn the idiosyncrasies of the FileMaker platform and how to make things faster beyond just getting everything extracted out of summary fields and unstored calculations and getting it, managed with scripts, which is what you do to become an intermediate developer. It's very, very important. Draco script layout engine. Yeah, that's what Kyle says. I'm assuming that's the same 3 that Nick talks about. David says the field calculation is the lowest layer. The script is a top layer. Yeah, Draco is the engine that basically runs the field definitions. Okay, and so the field definitions and the custom functions also live directly in Draco. When you dip out to scripts, you're at a much slower level. I don't know about the layout engine if it's faster or slower than scripts. I thought the layout engine was slower than scripts, but it doesn't matter. The point is you're going to get the benefit by optimizing your scripts and moving anything you can out of there into a custom function. I hate telling new people that because it's counter to good training and good learning, but it's what advanced developers do. Once again, it's this difference between beginning, intermediate, and advanced, right? I mean, let me hit a button here on my screen and see if it's probably not going to work right now, but, there it is. Yeah, so real quick, Jay here. We're okay on time, but basically your 3 levels of developers are right here. And so we're talking about the lean design is how you get from intermediate developer over here. This is the part you have to learn to move that. From beginning, from brand new developer intermediate, we're just trying to get you to have not fire off unneeded unstored calculations and doing unindexed finds and all this kind of, and then allowing users to sort 5 million records because they want to do it on the contact screen. Basic stuff like that. That's beginning to intermediate to senior ninja level developer. And then you have another category over here beyond this, which is the Charles Christian Schmidt monkey bread guy level of people, right? So Simon Day says, so this works with a calculation too, Jay said, question mark?
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue into the last little bit here as to how this works in the calculation engine, right? Because doing a loop in a script is the most common method. It's the easiest way to get your head around it, right? But in the calculation engine, remember what we did at the start. We just pasted a block of text, and then we have another field down here, be an auto enter calculation that takes all of the text and does something to each word, right? It loops through all the text. And this is just a quick example where it gives a number, 1, period, space, and then the word, okay? This is how you do it, okay? Same exact type of thing in the script, but it's in a calculation. And if you're not familiar with the while function, this basically means loop. Okay, so if you
don't have the monkey bread plugin installed, do you? I don't think you do right now.
I think I do, but on a different version of FileMaker. I don't think it's on 19.
Can you open, because we could make the size of the text larger here, right? And then
Uh,
it'd be
um,
yeah, or is it too far? Or is it while? Well, let's work with 19 or 18.
this is 19. I think it may just take too long for me to figure
Oh,
that
that's fine.
out.
That's fine. That's
Um,
fine. I
okay.
can zoom a little bit over here, but it doesn't help the Discord people out at all.
Okay.
But I'm
All right.
zooming for the
So
Boxcast and everyone else. So go ahead, Jay.
I got you. Okay. So if you're familiar with loop in a script, just imagine this while being loop. All right. And then in the script, these are our initial variables. So I'm setting the iteration to 1. This is just like that variable we set in the script initially, where this is the big block of text that we set at the start. This is how many um, values are in that big block of text. Okay, and then I set these two values to nothing at the beginning, right? So imagine this being a script. These are the initial variables that are set at the very start. This down here, let me just put while. These are all the parameters that you need, okay? This right here says exit loop if. That's basically what it is. Only do this, only keep doing this loop if this, right? So in this case, it's saying if my current loop iteration is the number of values. So if this is 48,058, then don't do this anymore. Don't keep doing this loop. Otherwise, show me the result. And then this is the main body of what we're doing. Okay, so it says I want this value to be whatever loop we're on, which would be 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., plus the period, and then plus the word that we're on. And you see, here's my technique, right? Get value 1 instead of get value iteration. That's the big key here. And then once it's done, okay, once it gets that word, then it replaces, see this text up here? Remember, that's the big block of text we said initially. Then it replaces the first value with nothing. It shaves off the first value. And so this big block of text gets smaller and smaller every loop we go through. Okay, so this shaves off the first one after we capture it. And then this list is compiling the list every time. And then when it's done, when there's nothing left to process, then it returns the list. And again, this is a lot more complex than a script. This might really confuse people looking at this. But this is that script translated into a calculation. This is how you do it.
Yeah, and that's why also for beginning to intermediate developers, I would train them to do it in a script. And then this is frankly harder to learn for beginning intermediate people, and this is more an advanced concept. So I'm not telling any of you that you are intermediate or advanced. I'm just telling you that it's important to understand that when we're having beginning classes, and then I get people in here trying to teach this stuff to beginners, I have to slap them around a little bit. So Jay knows that this is a much more advanced concept. So for easier, like for example, if I had to come behind someone and triage this would be Barf City. I would be like not very happy about that. But if it was well commented, I'd be okay.
Mm-hmm.
But then doing it in a script is easier to read and comment, and the code would probably be longer down the page. But it wouldn't be as fast. So the question is, how important is the performance in this case? If it's a major deal breaker where if it either goes faster or you throw it away, then yeah, you write it so it goes faster. It's very, very important.
Yep. Yep, absolutely.
Moki says the while function could create new records via MBS or base elements? ?
Whoa. Yeah, I have not gone that far. What you can do natively in a calculation function, that's what I'm demoing here. So again, this does not get you where the script got you. It's not creating records for you out of the
of course, and of
calculation.
course, you know the smart kids who were sitting in the back aisle who were throwing spitwads at everyone in class said, "Yes, of course it can. It does everything." Right? So yes, that's funny. So the takeaway from today is reducing my data set as I parse each line. Great insight. Yep. So tomorrow's broadcast, if I want to hit the button here, tomorrow's broadcast is getting into FileMaker by accident. We'll also be briefly talking about how to clear your cache on your copy of FileMaker. I ran into that issue today. It's not one we've talked about too much lately, but the issue of caching when you have a cache in FileMaker, and then you end up when you try to open FileMaker and it takes forever for it to open. Like you have 3 computers next to each other and they all open FileMaker and each of them opens them at a different speed. It's because each copy of FileMaker is wrestling with the cache. 5 seconds, 7 or 8 seconds maybe at the max of cache straightening out. But I had one computer, 3 minutes. So I quit FileMaker. I went through a cache cleanout process and now it opens it instantaneously. So once that's another moment of those questions where David can say, why doesn't clear us, blah, blah, blah. We're just here to tell you about how to clear the cache. Alex says if you're using, okay, Alex is back on the conversation about from earlier today. If you're using the replace function to shorten the text iteration, it wouldn't be better to use the left words instead of the list? I think that's a question for Jay.
Let me see here. Left words instead of the list. Yeah, in this case, we're not using list. So I'm not quite sure. Maybe he was thinking of something else, but
Yeah. So there's a little bit of a conversation Discord there about that. So appreciate it, everyone. Have a good day. See ya.
All right. Thanks, everyone.
Guys just stepped up the whole way. Calm, cool, collected. The quarterback, great read, good patience. More importantly, great job up front protecting this quarterback to give you a chance. And that's all you can ask for.
Trying to rally down 10. 9:25 to go here in the fourth. Short motion by Amendola from the left. Brady takes the shotgun snap, stands in, throws it left for Amendola, reaches up and snags a high throw and lands inside the 10, rolling to the 9. Slightly behind him, but Danny makes the grab.